So just a few seasons ago, Isagi Yoichi was this weak, pathetic character that lost his entire football career to some random white-haired dude. But now, dude's a superstar, making it to billboards and having glazers all over the world calling him Sagi the GOAT. Isagi Yoichi was never supposed to be special. He was average, not bad, but definitely not extraordinary. He played for a no-name high school team, always making the decisions that seemed right on the outside, and most importantly, how he always passing the ball at the last second in hopes of safety rather than glory. And for a while, he lived in that mediocrity. That was until he was eliminated by Kira with an underwhelming pass to his teammate who eventually missed a game-winning shot. His story didn't end there, it was the beginning, because just on day 1 of Blue Lock, his life changed forever. Instead of tagging the weakest player in the room, Igaguri, he turned and face-planted the ball straight into Kira Ryosuke's face, the very same guy who was predicted to be Japan's golden boy. Kira wasn't just eliminated, he was robbed, humiliated, and erased by a guy who, 5 minutes earlier, didn't believe he deserved to be in the room. And the scariest part, Isagi didn't regret it, he felt alive. In that moment, the demon inside him whispered, "Good, now let's devour more." From that moment on, Isagi started evolving. Slowly, subtly, but definitely, he began killing off his former self. In the match against Team Y, he unlocked something terrifying: awareness. Nico, Team Y's shadow tactician, had been orchestrating the game without being noticed. He was the smart player, the strategist. But Isagi sniffed it out. He dissected Nico's moves, intercepted a final pass, and, with the game on the line, ignored every instinct to share glory.
やっぱここだよな、ニコ。
Fired a direct shot into the net, winning the match. His teammates celebrated, but Isagi, he nearly passed out from the adrenaline of it. This wasn't just a win, it was a drug, and he was hooked. That shot marked the first time Isagi truly embraced the ruthless edge of egoist football. The joy wasn't in winning, it was in dominating, in snatching fate from another player's hands and rewriting the story himself. Isagi realized that the game wasn't about 11 players sharing a dream, it was about who could shine the brightest, and who had the guts to bury others in the process. As Blue Lock continued, Isagi kept unlocking new layers of his psyche, some of them darker than others. Against Team W, led by the slippery Wanama twins and their double-teaming tactics, Isagi's vision took another leap. He began to see betrayal not as a setback, but as a resource. Kwon, their teammate, sold them out mid-match for a better shot at advancing. Most would be angry, some would panic, but Isagi, he adapted. He shoved Chigiri, injured leg and all, out of the way to chase the ball and created a chemical reaction goal that would stun everyone. He used the betrayer's sabotage against him and fed off the chaos. In the midst of it, Isagi didn't just learn how to win dirty, he learned that anyone could be a tool. Allies, traitors, injured friends. It didn't matter. If you were on the field, you were part of the puzzle he was solving. And Isagi intended to solve it faster, sharper, and with more blood on his hands than anyone else. This was also the very beginning he managed to infiltrate his ideas into others' minds, because he managed to awaken Chigiri the speedster from his actions alone. The real test came in the final match of the first selection, Team Z versus Team V. And if Team V had Nagi, Reo, and Zantetsu, walking cheat codes of talent, Team Z had desperation. With Blue Lock's survival on the line, Isagi was up against a prodigy who made football look easy. Nagi literally said, "This is fun," while dismantling Team Z's entire defense. But even under that pressure, Isagi didn't crack. In fact, he got more feral. When the clock ticked down and Kunigami, the supposed hero archetype, called for a pass, Isagi saw a better path, himself. He ignored the cries, took the risk, and fired the most important direct shot of his life. That goal didn't just win the match, it annihilated the last pieces of the team player version of Isagi. He wasn't here to share the spotlight, he was here to own the damn field. And his teammates started to realize that the quiet, calculating guy they once knew had become something else entirely, something dangerous. With the second selection came a new level of destruction. Isagi chose to team up with Nagi, a genius who picked up football 3 months ago and was already breaking ankles. But in their first 2 versus 2 against Baru and Naruhaya, Isagi got humbled. Naruhaya, a former background character and weakling, was suddenly clapping him on the field. At first, Isagi panicked. He was losing to someone he had mentally outgrown, but then the demon voice kicked in again. Adapt, devour, evolve. Isagi stole Naruhaya's weapon, off-the-ball movement, and fused it with his own direct shot. He didn't just win the match, he snatched another man's identity, turned it into fuel, and told him thanks for the lesson while kicking him out of Blue Lock. That was cold, no tears, no sympathy, just a quiet, get out of my story. The cruelty didn't stop there. Baru joined the team, and Baru, the self-proclaimed king, refused to pass, refused to adapt, refused to shut up. Isagi saw this and didn't argue. He didn't beg him to cooperate. He just turned Baru into a weapon. He baited defenders into Baru's zone, drew attention away, and manipulated him into making the pass instinctively. He shattered Baru's entire ego, making the man break down mid-game and reforge his identity. And then Isagi laughed in his face, calling him a donkey. The fact that this tactic worked, and that it gave Isagi complete control of the game, proved just how far he'd come. He was no longer a pawn, he was a puppeteer, and every king, every genius, every prodigy in his path would dance to his tempo. By the time Isagi reached the 3-against-3 against Rin Itoshi, the most terrifying player in Blue Lock, he was foaming at the mouth with desire. He didn't want to be Rin's rival, he wanted to be his executioner. Rin was the perfect striker, cold, genius-level IQ, field control so precise it made time itself bend. But Isagi started catching up. Little by little, he matched Rin's tempo. They traded goals like titans, nullified each other's visions, and created one of the most beautiful yet toxic duels in sports manga. Isagi didn't care who got hurt in the crossfire. When Chigiri began slowing down from exhaustion and injury, Isagi didn't say, "Take a break." He said, "Run yourself to death so we can win." When Rin clutched the final goal due to dumb luck, Isagi went and took the L just to immediately started analyzing what luck meant and how to control even that. Because later on, he used the exact element of luck to return a favor to Rin Itoshi, but we'll leave that up for later. The third selection exposed another side of Isagi, the side that gets back up after getting bodied. In this arc, he was thrown into a match where he was the weakest player on the field. He couldn't contribute, no one passed to him, he was a ghost. But that didn't last. Watching Rin and Shido claw at each other's throats like feral dogs taught Isagi something vital. You don't need balance to shine, you need madness. So he snapped. He stopped overthinking. He entered flow for the first time, reacting instead of planning. And in that split-second burst of instinct, he scored. Isagi was back, not as the safe playmaker, but as the twisted artist who paints in chaos. That goal made it clear, this man wasn't done evolving. In fact, he had barely started. Then came the U20 match, a stadium full of fans, cameras rolling, the whole country watching, Blue Lock's fate dangling by a thread, and Isagi, now fully awakened, took the stage not as a hero, but as the perfect anti-hero. Shido later on scored a brace while knocking Blue Lock into the worst position, and Ego praised him. Isagi didn't clap, he stared down Ego and called him a clown for caring about college recruitment. "We're not here for safety," he said, "we're here for war." With the nation watching, Isagi tore into the match like a possessed gladiator. He read the flow of the game, predicted Rin's duel with his brother Sei, and positioned himself perfectly for the loose ball. And here's when the luck element returned to his favor. Isagi didn't miss. He scored, and that goal saved Blue Lock. Sei, Japan's golden prodigy, the genius who thought no striker in Japan was worth betting on, looked Rin in the eye and said, "It's not you." And then he turned to Isagi, the nameless high schooler, the average kid who once passed instead of shooting, the demon in disguise, and said, "It's him." From that moment, Isagi Yoichi was no longer a hopeful sunshine and rainbow-looking dude. He slowly became a threat, a villain that will do anything for victory, definitely a demon king in the making, and the world was finally watching. The old Isagi, the one who hesitated, the one who played by the book, was dead. In his place stood a player who would do whatever it took to win, manipulate teammates, all for one goal, to become the world's best striker, and it's in the NEL where Isagi stops being a rising demon and becomes a god on the pitch. Drafted to Bastard München, Isagi immediately finds himself in hostile territory. Not only is he the lowest valued player, but he's surrounded by killers. At the top stands Michael Kaiser, a smug, perfectly styled football royalty with a 300 million yen evaluation, and his loyal lapdog Alexis Ness, who treats Kaiser like a demigod. Their first interaction is instant disrespect. Kaiser calls Isagi a background character, while Ness treats him like a joke. But Isagi, ever the demon in disguise, just smiles. "I'll destroy you both," is the silent vow behind his eyes. And so begins his mission. In the first match against FC Barca, Isagi doesn't even start, a humbling reality check. But once he's subbed in, the villain begins cooking. Instead of falling in line, he uses Kunigami like a loaded weapon. When Kaiser expects Isagi to play ball, he disobeys and feeds Kunigami a killer pass, helping him score. On the surface, it looks like teamwork, but in truth, it was surgical revenge. Isagi tells Kaiser to keep running your mouth like a peasant and makes it clear, I don't follow orders, I write them. He admits outright that he used Kunigami as a pawn to crush Kaiser's ego. That's how the story starts, not with team spirit, but with prepared humiliation. Ness, offended by the move, tries to critique Isagi's logic, claiming he's still beneath Kaiser. But Isagi hits back with nuclear heat, telling them both that he'll expose Kaiser as the naked emperor, a fraud who rules through fear. This wasn't just villain talk, it was prophecy. Because in the next game against Manchain City, Isagi unlocks a new superpower, Metavision. Mid-match, something clicks. Isagi's eyes widen, time slows. He begins reading every movement, every opening, every microsecond of the game. He's no longer reacting, he's predicting. He uses Metavision to read the field like a god, and suddenly he's everywhere at once. Intercepting passes, commanding space, tearing through elite players like Nagi, Reo, and even Chris Prince, who's forced to acknowledge Isagi as the most valuable player on the field. Manchain is in shambles. Isagi is controlling the flow like he owns the damn game. For the first time in his life, he starts thinking, I changed the world just by scoring a goal. And then Kaiser scores, out of nowhere. One assist and the spotlight is stolen. Isagi snaps. His entire world collapses in a second. His internal monologue turns from pride to pure bloodlust. He straight up tells Kaiser, I will kill you on this field. Bro wasn't joking. You could feel the villain aura pouring out of him. And as he spirals deeper, he starts beefing with everyone. Kaiser, Ness, Yukimiya, Kunigami, anyone who breathes too loudly around him. But it's the Yukimiya beef that turns deadly. Yukimiya, an underrated striker with an eye disease threatening to end his career, is desperate. He thinks this might be his final shot and he hates that the spotlight is on Isagi. So what does Isagi do? Does he empathize? Not even close. He tells Yukimiya straight up, watch as you and your sinking ship drowns to death. That line alone could cause spiritual damage. The two argue, tension builds, and in the next match, Yukimiya ignores Isagi's plays, trying to be the solo hero. It fails, horribly, and Isagi, in true manipulator fashion, doesn't rub it in. He reframes it. He makes his intentions clear on scoring as the team's king, cold, ruthless, effective. Together, using flow state and Yukimiya's speed, Isagi managed to break through Manchain's defense while absolutely crushing players like Chigiri and Nagi along the way. When he was about to score Kaiser, the clown came to steal his goal, but this time, instead of letting the Emperor win, he predicted it and made an insane pass to Yukimiya, who everyone thought was done for a few chapters ago. Just from this, he used his teammate and made a foreshadow that he would do anything to win, and that didn't stood long. Because we finally reach one of the most highly skilled matches ever against Ubers and Baru the King himself. Right from the get-go, Isagi transcended into 100% with his Metavision. While everyone was fixated on Lorenzo, the new Gen 11 character, nobody but Isagi foresaw a deadly pass to King Baru. He steals it and proceeds to Awara farm while telling Baru that he'll be taking the throne from now on. But this time he didn't lie because he immediately scored a Metavision assisted lefty direct shot, his brand new weapon. This was all built to predict nasty plays from Ness or Kaiser, and the villain arc from here deepens to a whole nother level. Isagi even taunts Ness mid-game, telling him that his old self would have missed, but now he controls the field. Even Don Lorenzo, the world's best defender, gets embarrassed later on in this match. When Lorenzo tries to block him, Isagi fakes him out with the left side direct and scores anyway, making the guardian deity of defense look like a stunned amateur. Snuffy, Uber's coach and the World Cup champion, watches in disbelief. He praises Isagi for reading Lorenzo, praising his intelligence and composure. This is Isagi rising, not through brute force, but through outthinking everyone. But he's still not done. Not even close. Because when he realizes his current team can't keep up, he pulls the trigger on something even more insane, requesting a substitution. He doesn't want a friend, he wants a processor, a tool, someone who sees the field like he does. So he asks Noah to bring in Hiyori Yo, not for camaraderie, but because he's predictable and cold-blooded enough to be useful. What follows is one of the greatest goals in Blue Lock history. Hiyori, acting entirely on instinct, sends a blind pass to the deadliest spot on the field, without looking. Isagi, already there, slams it in. The entire stadium goes silent. Bastard wins. Everyone on the field is in disbelief, and as Hiyori collapses from emotion, Isagi just stares ahead, already scheming for the next match. That's how far gone he is. Against Paris Tengen, things go full apocalyptic. Rin, Shidu, and even Julian Loki, Blue Lock's owner and football genius, all enter the field. Kaiser and Rin both have vendettas. Kunigami is in survival mode. Shido wants chaos. But Isagi, he's playing chess. While they're fighting, he pulls off a genius play, using Kunigami as bait while everyone marks Isagi. The ball falls back to him and he hits a two-gun volley, fake left, real right, scoring an unpredictable world-class goal. The crowd explodes. Everyone from PXG literally says he's a monster. And then Kaiser breaks. He collapses. PTSD hits like a truck. He's reminded of being strangled by his father, all because Isagi outplayed him with words and movement. Even after his goal, his influence never stopped. It triggered the awakening of his other rivals like Rin Itoshi and Kaiser the Clown. Both of them, led by Hisagi's flow state, started becoming monsters of their own as they each scored a crazy goal, the Magnus Impact and Destructive Crash Shoot. The scores were 2-2, and later on, when the Masters were finally subbed off the pitch, Loki trash talks Isagi, saying it'll take 1,000,000 years before Japan produces a decent striker. Does Isagi shrink to his black menacing aura? Nah. He walks up to Loki and tells him, "For someone born fast, you sure talk a lot. Shut your mouth and admit you lost." That line alone sends shockwaves. Even Noah, Isagi's mentor, gets roasted. When Noah says he's rooting for Kaiser to carry the team, Isagi doesn't even flinch. He says, "You're no different from Loki. Born special. You don't understand what it means to crawl from the mud." And right there, he declares that he'll surpass both of them. Now the field becomes a bloodbath that is filled with Isagi's slurs. Later on, Isagi teams up with the very person he wants to defeat, which was Kaiser. At this point, his true ego was revealed. No matter the cost, he'll do whatever to achieve the victory. In the final moments of the PXG match, Isagi Yoichi scored the winning goal through a masterclass of strategy, manipulation, and spatial awareness. Knowing that Ness was emotionally fixated on Kaiser, Isagi used this to his advantage by subtly positioning himself in the perfect shooting lane, predicting that Ness, desperate to support Kaiser, would send a strong pass intended for him. However, Isagi intercepted that pass, not by chance, but through his advanced metavision and ability to read both teammate and opponent tendencies in real time. By making himself seem like part of Kaiser's play, Isagi lured the PXG defense out of position, and when the moment came, he executed a flawless direct shot using his Dairoku shot technique, sealing the match with precision. Right after scoring the winning goal against PXG, Isagi walks up to Kaiser and delivers one of the most brutal lines in Blue Lock history, staring him down and saying, "Our 1-goal contract is over. Thanks for that shit, my ultimate clown." It's not just trash talk, it's Isagi outright declaring that he used Kaiser, manipulated the entire play, and made him look like a fool on the world stage. Calling Kaiser his ultimate clown is a savage flex, turning the once proud emperor of Bastard München into nothing more than a pawn in Isagi's rise. Kaiser, who always flaunted his superiority, is left speechless and humiliated, unable to respond as the weight of that loss sinks in. This wasn't a rivalry anymore, it was a declaration of dominance, and Isagi made it clear that he's no longer beneath anyone. The Neo Egoist League ends with Isagi undefeated, unmatched, and now officially ranked as the #1 player. So what does he do? He starts tweaking, brain fried from ego, body buzzing. He admits he loves manipulating people, using them as tools and dominating them mentally. His parents, sweet and wholesome, tell him it's okay. "No matter how dark you go, we still love you." And Isagi? He smiles. Because now, the Demon King doesn't just rule Blue Lock, he's heading for the World Cup, and the world isn't ready.